Yay! Hi, everybody. Welcome back to World Hoppers. Today we're doing the Finally Fall book tag. And I recently did this tag over on my channel, but I thought it'd be fun to chat through with some other lovely booktubers and see their answers to these questions. So we're just going to jump right into it. The first question says, in fall, the air is crisp and clear. Name a book with a vivid setting. And Roger's looking at his shelf trying to figure out a book that fits this. But if there's anything, I mean, Roger was supposed to kick it off, but if anybody wants to
do you want to pass?
Maybe we should go counterclockwise and start with Shoshana since she's ready.
Are you ready, Ingrid? Do you have one?
I do have one. I have two actually, but I'll tell you one. I thought that the setting for Mistborn is very vivid and like very well descriptive in my opinion. Like I loved that setting. I thought it was.
Oh, you muted yourself.
Oops.
There you go.
We're very put together.
Like today. I thought it was dun dun dun. Nothing.
No. Yeah. Mistborn, definitely, for the setting.
And it's kind of a good one for this season because it's got the gothic.
I know, and the mist and stuff.
Very eerie.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't think I ever think of Mistborn for a good setting, but it is very vivid and you can picture it.
Yeah.
Roger, did you find one?
Yeah. So I'm just going to do the Small Spaces Quartet. So this is Dead Voices by Catherine Arden. It's her middle grade spooky ones. And they all have very distinct settings. So the first book, Small Spaces, is creepy haunted cornfield. And then the second book, Dead Voices, is haunted ski lodge. So they're all very vibey, atmospheric-y type reads.
Nice. The one I selected, I actually reread recently. And both this one and the sequel, just a very lush world. There's lots of nature description, not lots of. I was commenting on that. Her descriptions, it's they're very subtle, but very efficient descriptions is how I describe her writing, or just of her descriptions. I'm saying description and describe too many times, but yeah, it's just a very I can see everything that she's telling me about in this world, and it's just very lush and pretty and vivid.
What did you think of the sequel?
I loved it. I gave it 5 stars.
Yeah. That's rare for you. I feel like you hold on to that 5 stars.
Those 5 stars.
And you liked it better than the first book, right?
Yeah, I mean, I liked the first book better on reread too. I gave it a slightly higher. I think I gave it 4.5, but I still felt like the beginning was just a little slow for me, the pacing, and just this one is much more set up and we're preparing for our goals, and then the second one is we're doing our goals. So
I ended up DNFing that one. I read a good amount of it, and I thought the writing was really good, but it almost seems like one of those books that it is inevitable to like it more almost on reread because you really don't know what's going on for a fair amount. So the things that hit, you're I don't quite feel like I know why I'm supposed to care about what's happening.
Yeah, but that's how I felt the first time.
I've heard good things from other people too about the sequel.
Yeah, it's
really I don't know. I feel like maybe I have to give it a try again someday.
I think you would really like it, honestly, the stuff that happens.
Because it's kind of scheming and people having their own motivations.
Heartbreaking choices that people have to make where you're no.
And I do a tough decision.
I know. That's why I'm I think you would like it.
The next question is, nature is beautiful but also dying. Name a book that is beautifully written but also deals with a heavy topic like loss or grief. Roger, did you immediately were you okay, Shoshana and Elle are still talking, so give me time.
But then I was
give me a moment.
I was I don't really read super theme heavy books, so I don't really read a bunch of stuff that deals with loss and grief all the time. The first thing that comes to mind would be is it Kingdom of Ash by Daniel Abraham? But I don't like that book.
So you don't want to say it?
We don't have to like it.
Oh, Age of Ash. That's the
I
one.
was gonna say Kingdom. Yeah,
I was Ash is Sarah J. Maas.
That's what I was. That's why I was I know
that does. Kingdom of Ash does deal with
you're right.
PTSD grief, though. So hey, you weren't wrong.
Are you wearing your Outring t-shirt, Roger?
Yeah. Melania.
It's very perfect. Gosh, she's the freaking worst boss in that game. It's so annoying. She's always healing. You're like, dang it. Anyway, sorry. I got sidetracked. I like
But
that.
like, I don't necessarily look for things that are like beautifully written. That's not usually like I'm like oh, okay, we'll see.
I think it's
I
tough
wouldn't say Ash is beautifully written, I guess, just that it deals with grief.
I think it's difficult with something like I definitely think there are books I've picked up that deal with loss and grief, but then I'm like, are they beautifully written? It's not that I think they're poorly written or anything, but I almost think that the types of books that are beautifully written talking about loss and grief, I mean,
I guess
maybe,
Strange the Dreamer.
I was just about to say that one, but that's almost more like Deshauna mentioned, like PTSD and the cycles of violence and compassion and stuff. It's not quite loss and grief, but kind of.
But it does deal with pretty heavy themes of like generational trauma, and it is beautifully written.
Yeah. So that one.
There we go. Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor.
There's your final answer.
Are you sure? Now you guys made me overthink because I'm like, well, is this really beautifully overwritten? But I don't know. I'm gonna say The Poppy War and I'm also cheating because I've already read this before, but I reread it this year, and it does have lots of like dark themes and heavy topics and whatnot. And I don't know now if I consider it beautifully written, but that's what I'm gonna say for this.
No, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
There's some really, really, really heavy moments in that.
Oh yes, my gosh.
I would not know. It has gotten knocked quite far down the TBR after Babel.
I'm going with one of my all-time faves. I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson, because her authorial voice, her writing style, I think is so beautiful, and hence all of my tabs of quotes to save from this book, because it just has so many like beautiful, poignant quotes, in my opinion, very whimsical, nonsensical metaphors, but like grounded in like a solid like plot that's happening. Because I've learned I can't do those types of whimsical metaphors when the plot is also like, what's going on?
But yeah, like knuckles growing out of trees or something.
Well,
what was the weird?
Wasn't even that. That was just stupid. I don't even know what that was from Ninth House or whatever. But yeah, this one is dealing with grief. There's a loss in the family, and it's these two twins. And certain chapters that I think the chapters from the boy twin are in the past prior to this incident. And then the girl twins chapters are like the present after the fact. And it's like a family dealing with this loss. And it's beautiful.
What was the reference to Ninth House just now?
The first and last chapter video, part 2 that I did recently, there was a stupid metaphor in the beginning of Ninth House that was like something about, it was like a vine or like leaves growing out of the like knobby parts of a tree, like a woman trying on rings. And I was like, what? Like, I get the idea of like your knuckles being knobby, but like, what does that have to do with leaves growing out of it? That's not like a woman trying on rings. When you try on rings, leaves don't sprout from your knuckles. So like this metaphor makes no sense.
Is there a name for when plants grow places they're not supposed to? I think there is, because Jasmine Throne has that.
Yeah, there's the
and
the
I can't do
can't
it.
Deal with
now
it.
that I remembered that book has that, I'm like, I don't think I can reread it.
Yeah, it's like an illness called the rot.
Yeah,
because they have trees that are like basically alive, kind of, and
that's cool.
You can get infected where like your body turns into a tree eventually, basically.
But I'm surprised because didn't you recently do something where you had a bunch of covers that looked very similar with like vines on girls' faces, Elle?
Oh, I mentioned a while back that there is a trend, it seems now, of flowers and plants like growing out of people or just around them. Because I think there's Belladonna has it, and there's that, I think it's called Horrid or something like that, where there's flowers, and then the book House of Hollows has a lot of flowers. There's like a trend now going.
Yeah.
there being lots of flowers and plants, and a girl, most of her face or like part of her face on covers. And I'm not the biggest fan. Sometimes the art style, it looks okay, but yeah, I don't like that. The next question is, fall is back to school season. Share a nonfiction book that taught you something new. Like basically every nonfiction book.
I know, right? I was thinking about that. Like, nonfiction teaches you stuff all the time. Roger, do you have one?
Well, I own only like 2 nonfiction books, so I mean
Okay.
it's relatively easy for me to choose one of them. So I'll just talk about the other one that I haven't talked about before. So this is Meditations on Violence, and it's written by a police sergeant, and it kind of explores the difference between martial arts training on like a mat versus like violence in the real world, because a lot of times people will be like, oh, I have martial arts training, so obviously like I'd be fine in like a street scenario. And it's kind of him comparing and contrasting his experiences with both types of violence.
Well, that's interesting. Very
Yeah,
different.
it is.
I mean, I
thank
did
you.
teach martial arts for 11 years before I moved down here to start my PhD. So it's just one of those things that I started reading when I started doing silat, which is like this crazy martial arts style where their philosophy with weapons is like the typical philosophy of weapon fighting is defang the cobra. So like if you remove the weapon, it's no longer a problem. But silat is behead the cobra. It's like if you kill the person, you don't have to worry about their weapon. So then they also
'Cause they're
assign like
dead.
random readings to like think about violence along with that, because it's a little. I'm pretty sure I would be arrested and imprisoned as a 6'7" person, and I was like, I could have just disarmed you, but I killed you. Sorry. Like,
Perhaps not the best.
I'm pretty sure that'd be excessive use of force.
I know, right? I am gonna say Sex Cult Nun by Faith Jones for this. I think this was like one of the first books I read this year, and it is very, very heavy. But I learned a lot about the cult and stuff, the Children of God cult.
I think
Super easy read.
I think just today,
In terms of writing, I shouldn't say it's an easy read, like,
right.
you know what I mean? Like in terms of the writing, not the subject, because it's a very heavy subject.
If I'm not mistaken, unless I'm getting the book mixed up, I think I just saw Ashley from the Bookish Realm on her Instagram stories was like, this has just everything. Every difficult topic is in this.
Yep. It's a good one if you're like interested in that kind of like cult stuff.
Kind of dissecting how
like learning more about it,
Sounds fun.
No.
Change of scenery, Shoshana's in here.
Yeah, I moved because I was out in the living room. Mine is, I don't have a physical copy of it. I just listened to it recently on audio though. The Devil's Highway by Luis Alberto Urrea, right? Yeah, that was his name. And it's about the Devil's Highway, section of land in southern Arizona and northern Mexico where people cross over. Mm-hmm. And it was specifically about the Yuma 14 from years and years ago, a group of immigrants that were found, and half of them had died on the way there. And there was 14, was there 14 that had died? I don't know. There was like 20 some that started the journey. And it's just like investigating and looking into this whole phenomenon, this whole experience. And it was pretty heavy at times because they get a little gruesome into what happens to a body in the desert without water. And it's not cute. And it's really sad because it's dealing with real people, especially like specific people in this case. But I just thought it was a really good, eye-opening, I guess, book about that. Like, learned things that I didn't know about kind of all of that stuff. So
so we like to read some dark things for nonfiction, I guess.
Learn about all the atrocities of the world.
Yeah.
Great.
I feel like everybody should read The Hidden Life of Trees after reading those.
It's something
like,
happier.
Wow, trees, they're basically talking to each other.
Trees are amazing.
Trees or The Secret Life of Groceries. I feel like those are your 2 nonfictions that you're always like, read them.
From this year. Well, those ones, The Secret Life of Groceries has some parts that are really, really depressing because there's a whole section about people that are basically enslaved. I mean, they are tricked into working because they're very desperate and they're trying to get money. And then they're kept in this horrific. It's like shrimp. It has to do with the shrimp industry, and they're really mistreated. And that whole section was one of the most devastating things I've ever read. And then the section about truckers in that book is really devastating too, because a lot of times female truckers are they are taken against their will by other truckers, and it's just really awful situations. And the way that they get tricked into basically loans that they can never get out of, and they live out of their trucks and they can never pay it off, and then they can never. It's awful. So there's some pretty awful things. But I mentioned Hidden Life of Trees because it's not as depressing, because you're like, wow, this is fascinating.
It's a bit happier.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm forgetting what it's called. Sean just read a book by Ed Yong, and it's about animals and the way that they communicate. And that one also seems like it's not quite as heavy as some of the other ones. I'm trying to think of more uplifting.
Is that one with the
I
quivering
read,
bums and the vibrating bums that he was reading?
Yes, the frogs that like really shake their butts a lot.
I read also the Into Every Generation a Slayer is Born, the nonfiction about the show, if anybody watched
the
Buffy the
one?
Vampire Slayer.
Oh.
It's really good and fun. I mean, it does talk a little bit about all the like weird stuff that happened behind the scenes with the director, but it's very nostalgic too. Like the beginning of the book, it's really good.
I mean, Know My Name is probably one of the best nonfiction books, but it is very difficult to read.
We're everybody's screaming about that one right now, right? The I'm Glad My Mom Died or something.
Oh yeah, I tried to read that.
Yeah.
You couldn't read it?
I couldn't read it. I think it was okay. It's gonna sound bad. I didn't like the writing too much, and I wasn't like, I never watched the show, so I wasn't a fan of the actress to begin with. And I tried reading it. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood. And I did see some stuff about it, and I'm like, wow, this is really messed up. So I was like, I just came out of a slump. I'm not going to put myself in another slump. Yeah.
But to basically prove your point, Ingrid, there's a lot of nonfiction that's very sad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good,
For sure.
but it's hard to read back to back because it's just, it's eye-opening, and it's good to know, and it helps create empathy and educate you. And then that information can kind of inform your actions and organizations you can put money to and things like that. But to constantly be taking in that negative information it's a lot. It's a lot. It can be a lot. Well, anyway.
That's why you could read mine, Meditations on Violence, because it's just talking about the difference between martial arts.
Just more informative. There's not a the next one says, in order to keep warm, it's good to spend some time with people we love. Name a fictional family, household, friend group that you'd like to be a part of.
Fun.
Roger can think of no one
confused again
that he would want to.
Well, because I'm like trying to think about it, and I'm like, well, they're usually pretty messy, or they're going through like Armageddon, and I'm like, well, do I really want to be a part of that? I don't know. I'll have to think.
Plot aside, just the characters. Just to hang out with them. Who do you want to hang out with?
To come back to me, Kyle.
Okay. I'll go. I read Life of Melody. Roger read this one too. It's like a graphic novel, and the main characters are a gay couple. One is like a wolf monster type thing. There, Roger has it. And then the other one is like a fae, and they have a little girl. Her name is Melody, and it's just the sweetest graphic novel in the world. And I love it. One of them works in a library, I believe. And yeah, I would just love to be friends with them. Even though they're not real.
I'm going with Lady Hardcastle and her bestie / maid, Flo, from the Lady Hardcastle mystery series.
Are you liking that?
I mean, I've only read the first 2 books. There's like 8.
Buy them all? You're like obsessed.
Yes, I did. Because I love them. They're so like, it's just so fun. It's like cozy mystery, Victorian England countryside, and Lady Hardcastle is just such a sassafras. And then her maid Flo has been with her for years, and they used to like travel the world adventuring, and like Flo is an expert in karate and different martial arts secretly. And they're just always up to little hijinks, and they're just so funny together. And I would love to just hang out with them, solving a mystery together.
You love
Sounds fun.
the soulless character
Yes.
too, right?
Yes, for similar reasons. Yeah, very sassafras Victorian women. Apparently, I just love them. I'm like, yes, you're funny.
Roger's still.
I'm just like,
Contemplating.
I guess this is like a manifestation of how I'm not a super character-driven reader, because I'm trying to think of like characters and I'm like, oh my god, I love them so much, and I'm just like, I don't know.
I don't like you that much.
Well, I don't fall in love with characters in that way. You know what I mean? I'm not like, oh my god, I think I remember the plots more than I remember the characters usually, and then like some of the characters that stick out in my mind, I'm like, I would absolutely not want to hang out with you, because like Caramon and Raistlin come to mind from the Dragonlance series, but like Raistlin is awful, and so like he'd be doing something horrible to you or like manipulating you in some messed up way, and like that would not be a fun time.
That is the problem. Is a lot of our favorite characters to read about aren't necessarily nice.
Yeah.
What about some characters from the Age of Empire and the Legends of the First Empire series, just to hang out with, plot aside?
Yeah, but then it's all sad.
No, to hang out with them, just kick it. Because
Okay, I'd hang out
with. They're fun.
I guess Minna and Suri would be lovely.
There you go.
That was
They
like
would
pulling
be
teeth. He's like, I don't want to hang out with any of these people.
No, they'll stop.
Well, I just don't connect to characters in that way. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Too funny.
I know a while back I made a video about characters I love that I wouldn't like in real life. Because Yennefer, I love Yennefer, but she, oh my gosh, would be just so mean to me. And I'd be like, what's this lady's problem? So pretty much
I
all
feel
my
like
favorite
Glockta
characters.
would end up on a bunch of those lists, because I feel like people always talk about how much they love Glockta, but he's like a torturer.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's like his profession. It's not just like he just has some torture chamber that he brings people into.
okay.
It's like
Yeah,
he's
that's
trying
a little bit
to,
better.
when they need somebody to have information, they, let's say the government basically has captured somebody and they need information out of them. That is when Glockta comes into the picture. But his internal voice is quite amusing. It's complicated because it's really dark.
Or I guess the other people would be the girl who fell beneath the sea. I feel like it'd be fun to go hang out in like the spirit realm.
Yeah, let's change it. What world would you want to go to?
I feel like the girl who fell beneath the sea is the easiest one that comes to mind at the moment, because it's not horrible and traumatic and awful. It's like sweet and wholesome and whimsical.
Might actually be fun and nice.
I mean, I've been rereading Full Metal, and I just love all of them so much.
But that world is traumatic, so not the world, just
So-
the people.
Yes. Oh, but I love Armstrong just constantly taking his shirt off. There's a character, for people that don't know, who's like massive, and he's just a super buff man who's just always crying. And he's always giving people hugs, and he's also always taking off his shirt and like flexing. It's really silly. And there's one part where he comes in and he's like, he sees this other really big guy, and he takes off his shirt. And he's like, you don't understand what we have to offer. You can be really buff like me. And then the other guy takes off his shirt and he's really buff too. And they like shake hands and instantly become friends. It's hilarious. It's all it takes. It's great. They're great.
Have you read that, Jashana, or no?
What, Full Metal? No.
Yeah, me
Mm-mm.
neither.
I've
I
seen the
kinda want
anime.
to.
I've seen both versions of the anime, but I've never read the manga.
It's
Elle
so
seems to
funny.
be obsessed with it.
I am obsessed with it. And rereading it is just the best. But also, I was just almost crying the other night rereading it.
I mean, there are some really traumatic things that happen in Full Metal that stick with you and will haunt you for the rest of your life.
Aw. Sounds
Yes.
super fun.
But then it's mixed with the weird ridiculousness of stuff like that.
It's and I've said before too, it's very difficult to find that perfect balance of ridiculous and silly and really heavy, because sometimes it just doesn't work and it actually takes away from the heavy moments. And then
Yeah.
other times it makes the heavy moments bearable, and then it kind of feels like it's fully capturing what it is to be a person because it's got every emotion there. And I just feel like Full Metal is the it's perfect. It's right there. The next question we're skipping because it says the colorful leaves are piling up on the ground. Show us a pile of fall colored.
There you go. Colorful leaves.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Ooh.
So we're all gonna be losers and not really do that one.
Yeah.
Question 6. Fall is the perfect time for some storytelling by the fireside. Share a book wherein somebody is telling a story. City of Girls for Joshana.
No, I have a different one. Okay. Oh yeah, that one.
Ooh, Roger, you go first.
Because I actually am ready for once, because this is on my TBR for the month. So, Empire of the Vampire by Mr. Kristoff. So this is definitely somebody telling a story, because basically the setup is, I think it's like 27 years in the past, the sun went down and has never risen again. Vampires have run amok and taken over the world. And there used to be this order that kept vampires in check known as the Silver Saints. And so we're following the main character, Gabriel de Leon, who is the last living Silver Saint, and he has been imprisoned by the vampires as basically being coerced and forced to tell his life story because the crazy vampire empress wants to know his life story. And so it's kind of told in 3 different timelines. You have that modern day timeline where it's him telling his story to the vampire in a prison cell. And you have Gabriel when he's a child learning to become a Silver Saint. And you have like a middle point where they're trying to find this item to potentially bring back the sun. And it's gruesome and violent, and I enjoy it, which I don't know what that says about me, but I've heard from other people that it can be difficult to keep track of which timeline you're in. So if like bouncing back and forth through the different timelines bugs you, then that could be a problem. But it's also practically fully illustrated. It has like all the cool art, like all over the place throughout the entire book, which for an 800-page chunker is pretty impressive. But yes, that is somebody telling a story.
Is the art in every edition?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's like the super special edition that just came out in the UK that's all fully colored, but every edition has black and white art.
That is cool. I do like artwork in books. Joshana, are you going to say Dowry of Blood?
Nope.
Oh, dang it. Which one is it? Sorry, Ingrid.
No, go ahead, please. Joshana.
I don't have the book because I got a super early e-arc from NetGalley. It doesn't come out until March.
I know what it is.
The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. Freaking loved it. It was so fun. 5 stars. Great time. Just so fun. And yeah, it's the main character is telling her story to a scribe. And like you see her like talking to the scribe at the start of some chapters. And then there's like intermittent chapters that are the scribe like relaying this other story to you to like help give you some context, doing like a breaking the fourth wall with like, okay, reader, blah, blah, blah. The whole book isn't like that, but there are those like little interludes, I guess. But yeah, it's Amina telling her story to the scribe, and it's great. Surprised you all.
Yes, you did. I'm gonna say the final revival of Opal and Ev by Donnie.
I still have that one on my TBR.
Donnie Walton. Yeah, it's the story of this like musical duo back in the 70s, and the duo was a Black woman and a white guy, so it stirred up a lot of like racial issues. And it's the story because this happened, like the current timeline is the future, and there is a reporter trying to ask Opal, who's the woman, what happened back in the day, and she's telling the story.
Fun. I still have that one on my.
It's very good. You're gonna like it.
Over there somewhere, right there.
The unconventional pick for this one would have been the Stardust Thief, since there are stories told within it, but it's not strictly somebody telling you their story.
Right. I did like the way they incorporated those in both in just the fact that you have these little stories, but then how it looks on the page. I think that was, I thought that was fun. The next question. Oh, wait, we already did that one. It's there twice. The nights are getting darker. Share a dark, creepy read. We read dark nonfiction, but not dark.
Shall I go?
Yeah, go for it.
I read Sundial by Catriona Ward, and this is like it is very creepy. It like this woman grew up in this house that has like really bad memories. So she ends up getting married. She has she has a child, and her child starts to like develop weird things that the woman's like, okay, she's doing the same thing that my sister used to do. So she brings her back to the house, which is Sundial, to figure out what the problem is. And it's like dual timeline. So you get the present and what happened to her and her sister in the past. Very good, very creepy. And it's one of those books that when it ends, you're like, oh, I did not see this coming. Like it just goes so like far. You know what I mean? Very good.
What was it called again?
Sundial.
Sundial.
It has a pretty like pink and purple blue cover. It's such a good cover.
Oh yeah, that is a cool cover. It looks like the other edition is cool too. I can pull it up.
I have never seen it. Let me see.
Yeah, let me pull it up really quick.
All right.
There you go. So the other one is that.
Ooh. Oh yeah, I like that.
Both are
and that makes sense with the story.
I like that one better just because I like the colors.
Me too. I love the colors.
Cool. And then apparently there's this basic one. Oh wait,
no, the basic one sucks. The one with the dog makes sense with the story.
They're all cool. All of them. This person tabbed it a bunch. Okay. Anyway.
You got one now, Roger?
I don't really read dark, creepy stuff, and so like I already like prematurely let loose, I guess, because like the only creepy things that I've really read is like the creepy middle grade series, and then like Empire of the Vampire, I guess, could be kind of creepy, but it's more gory. And then there's like Dracula, but I feel like everybody knows about Dracula. Those are like literally the only creepy books on my shelf.
Me neither.
Well, what if we take out the creepy part? Just books that are dark?
I mean, then it's like everything.
Your whole
Just
page.
pick one at random.
Is there one you read recently that you haven't been able to talk about much or that you liked a lot from this year?
Mine is not.
I mean, I'm like, where's my Goodreads?
That's okay.
Yeah,
we'll let
mine
Shoshana go
isn't-
and I'll find something.
Mine isn't. I guess I could have picked Dowry of Blood for this because I did read that this year, and it has a very, I don't know, it's not like creepy, but like a darker, atmospheric, whatever vibes. But the one I actually picked was Ring Shout.
Oh,
but also this one isn't like,
it's not super creepy, but
yeah,
it is horrifying.
I don't read a lot of creepy stuff.
Horror.
This one's like body horror,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh God, gruesome stuff, but it's not like scary, creepy.
I'm reading so many horrors this month. I can't wait. I know, Roger. I think of you whenever I say horror wrong.
I remember
Just delete the second part of the word and we're good.
as a little kid when we would go to Hollywood Video to check out a movie, I would always say it wrong. I'd be like, let's go look in this section. And my mom would be like, no.
Oh no.
Just like yelling at the store.
Yeah.
I love it.
Talking about horror, since Roger hasn't picked anything yet, did you guys watch Hocus Pocus 2 yet? It's not horror, but it's...
I have not.
I've never been a Hocus Pocus person.
I used to watch
Yeah, I like
We should just leave this call right
person.
now, Ingrid.
What?
We should just leave right now. Did you hear that sacrilege
cannot
that
be
just went out of
friends
Elle's
anymore.
mouth?
I know.
I watched it as a kid once, I think, but like I barely remembered it. And then I watched it later in life, like in my late 20s, and like it's fun or whatever. And when I rewatched it, I was like, oh yeah, I do remember briefly this, but like I didn't grow up like loving it and watching it a bunch.
My mom used to work at a video store back in Brazil, and I shit you guys not, like every single day she would bring that movie home, and I would watch it, and then she would bring it back the next day, and I like continued the cycle for months. I was obsessed.
So funny. I love it.
It's like Alex and my thing. We watch it every Halloween, but we watched it earlier this year so that we could rewatch it before Hocus Pocus 2.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I see. So many people love it. I don't know if it's just I'm not really into any holiday themed movies and stuff, or if I don't know. never been Halloween people anyway in my family.
Yeah, I'm not a big Halloween. Yeah,
I feel
same.
like I'm personally attacked.
I never was either, really. Like, we did Halloween when I was a kid, of course, but I just,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's fun, I guess.
When I was a kid, I used to think that people dressed up for my birthday.
I like the dressing
Thanks,
up.
everyone.
Like, I think little kids in cute little costumes is really sweet. Like little babies in pumpkin outfits and stuff. That's cute. But I don't know. Aside from that, I'm just
I don't
not
like decorating for it or anything. Like Christmas, I want my whole house.
Yeah.
Just
winter
all the
wonderland.
Christmas. But Halloween, I'm kind of like, I don't even care. I don't put out any kind of decorations for
I like
Halloween.
fall.
Me too.
I like fall stuff, and I like, Thanksgiving,
like
Christmas, but still not movies. We don't have a Christmas movie we turn on every year. Or anything.
Oh, I do. I have all the Christmas movies.
Oh yeah.
For me, it's
Gotta
Nightmare Before Christmas.
No, I've never seen that.
Really?
Yeah.
At the very least, it has pretty darn good music.
I know what it's about and everything. I've seen so many clips of it, but I never saw it. Anyway.
It is very strange. I feel like I haven't watched it, but every time I have seen it again, I'm always like, this is a very bizarre movie.
Okay, so I thought of something, and I guess I could say Monstrous, the graphic novel series. That's kind of creepy and dark.
It is.
Yeah,
creepy.
it is. Yeah. It's very like.
I don't even know how to describe what it's about, though, because I'm still confused.
Yeah, I mean, I read volume 1 twice, and I was still kind of like, I think I know what's going on, but I don't really care because I'm here for the ride. Let's go.
I've read 5 volumes of it.
The art.
I haven't read the last one yet. I just got it.
I haven't read the number 6. I've only read the first 5.
That artwork, even if you don't have any idea, I've only read the first volume, and I also was like, I don't know what's going on. I feel like I need to reread this and then keep going so that I have more to get involved in the world. But the art, at the very least, you can just stare at, and the like cute little kind of cat looking thing.
Yeah, the little Kippa. That's why I named Kippa from that little.
So cute.
But it does have like tentacles and body horror and stuff like that, so that counts.
Mm-hmm. It counts.
The next question. The days are getting colder. Name a short, heartwarming read that can warm up somebody's cold and rainy day.
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is the book that you've been trashing on your channel left and right. And that would be The House in the Cerulean Sea by
Sorry.
That's
Who's trashing the book? Ellis?
Oh, yeah. And basically every video for the last 2 weeks. It's been like, there's this new cute book that she likes that's like witches or something. That she's always like, well, this is what House in the Cerulean Sea could have been.
Exactly how
L sounds like that ever.
Yeah, I know, right?
Analogy was that I thought House in the Cerulean Sea is kind of like when you watch a little kid get frozen yogurt and they just mix like every flavor and then they get like every kind of candy and you're like, I mean, that's a lot of sugar. Just like it doesn't. Anyway, that was
just like a little bit of flavor sprinkled in. I get it.
I just want like the right amount of.
Yeah.
But I don't totally disagree because one of your critiques is that the main characters don't have a ton of personality in comparison to like their love interests, which is not completely wrong, but I still loved it.
No, I think that the themes are really great. And I just feel bad too, because I want to think that the romance between them is so cute because the love interest is so sweet. But the main character, I'm like, I wish there was a little bit more. I think that the main character is almost purposefully like that so that you can kind of like experience this thing alongside them. But it is cute though. It's cute. And there's
plus it's one of the few queer romances that's actually written by like a queer author. So that's always lovely when it's not always just a white woman.
Who's straight.
Yeah, straight white woman. Yeah.
So I need to pitch what that's about. So House on the Cerulean Sea. He works, the main character, I can't remember his name right now, Lionel? Works for basically this organization that kind of oversees these different orphanages. And so he gets tasked to go to this orphanage that's supposed to be the like special kids that can't live amongst humans because they can't hide their differences. And he's supposed to be seeing if the caretaker is doing a good job taking care of them and if they should stay on said island. And it's just adorable. There's a little blobby thing that wants to be a bellhop, and that's like his life ambition. There's like a little gnome that just likes to dig in the garden. It's very adorable. And there is like a male romance, slow burn. Not spicy, just cute.
Just cute, yeah. The one that Roger was referring to that I've mentioned is the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. And it's very similar in its setup. It's very, very, very similar. I don't know if House in the Cerulean Sea started that or if it was the first one to get popular, but it is its own kind of part of cozy fantasy, the like going and visiting these kids sort of story. The little girls in this one are really cute. And they can't really like go out to the rest of society because they're witches and people don't know. There's a part where one of the little girls gets to go to the bookstore and she's never been out and about. So she gets like dressed in her finest clothes and she's like in the car all like looking out the window all excited. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's so cute. So yes, they're both along the same.
They do sound cute.
It's really cute.
Yeah, I had no interest in it until you described it as like.
It'd be cuter if it didn't come coupled with slander.
Oh my gosh, Roger, so dramatic. Slander.
Well, libel, whichever one it is. I can never remember which one's written and which one's verbal.
I only say it's what I had kind of wanted House in the Cerulean Sea to be, just because I think it's very possible for people to like both, but I also think if somebody didn't love House in the Cerulean Sea, they might still like this one.
That one.
Yeah.
But also if you don't like this one, you might still like House in the Cerulean Sea. So
maybe, hopefully, I'll like both.
Yeah.
I know. I hope if you all pick it up that you like it too.
Yeah. I'm gonna say it happened one summer. And this is a romance, and it's kind of like a cozy, funny romance. This main character, she is based on the character of Alex from Schitt's Creek, the show. And if you've watched the show, she's like a super quirky character and she's like mainly obsessed with clothes and stuff like that. But as the show goes on, you warm up to her. And that's how, I love her. And that's how the book is. The main character is very much like you can see her in the character. And it's just a love story. Like she has to go to this bar in Washington because she's like effed up so many times that her stepdad is like, you're cut off, you can't buy anything else anymore, like you need to go work. So she goes to work in this bar that was actually owned by her late father that died, and she has to like build this bar up from nothing in a fishing town in Washington, and like everybody's a townie there, so she's like, comes up like with like all these clothes and stuff. Yeah, it's crazy, but it's cute.
That one does sound cute, but I fail all the time with contemporary romance. So
I know.
I'm just like,
and it's like, I don't love contemporary, but this one is good. You would like it. I think so.
We will see if I ever try it.
You probably won't, but
I don't have
think you would like
hopes, it. But the one I picked is So Many Beginnings by Bethany C. Morrow, and it is a Little Women remix, and it is quite short, and it's like young adult. And it's just so wholesome and precious. I love it so much. It's, the March family, but they are a Black family right after being freed. The girls were born into slavery, and then they're freed, and they go to a freed people's colony on Roanoke Island, and they're just living their lives. And it does touch on difficult topics, but more of like referencing to things that happened in the past. There's not like on page terrible things happening, but they do just discuss that like this has happened in the past, or like we still today are dealing with racism, obviously, but you don't see like terrible things being said to them or happening to them, like traumatizing things. You still see people being like, oh my God, why are you so... This very like well-intentioned white girl that's like their friend that like tries real hard, but sometimes you're like, oh sweetie, and they're like, girl, why'd you just say that to us? Are you serious? And she's like, what? I don't know. So stuff like that. But all in all, it is just a wholesome tale of the family, and I just love it. Like such a like heartwarming comfort read. It will definitely be for me in the future. And I love the Joe and Lori dynamic in this is just perfection. Top notch. 10 out of 10.
Are those characters from Little Women that I'm supposed to know?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Which I've never even read Little Women because I DNF'd it because it was so freaking tedious and boring. But the old 1940s movie, I have seen, don't even know how many times, because it was one of the only VHSs my grandma owned. So I would always watch it when I was over there. And so I loved the story of it. The book itself was so long and boring, but this one was not. So
That sounds cute. It reminds me, and this is one that Jashawn and I both liked, which is rare, but The Downstairs Girl, which also kind of touches on, it's not quite as far back, but it's still historical fiction. And her family are immigrants, and she was born in America, but obviously she doesn't look like all the white people where she lives. And it's kind of around a time when women are trying to have more freedom and the ability to vote and things like that, but only some women. They don't really like the main character trying to also be a voice. And she also kind of is looking at the way that even though there isn't slavery anymore, she sees the way that Black individuals are treated. And so she's kind of trying to navigate everything. And then she, through some unusual circumstances, starts writing a column in the newspaper, basically. And they don't know it's her. And she just gives out advice, but then it's also where she can put out a lot of her opinions. And she's really sassy and clever. And it was really good. But the reason it reminded me of what Deshaun was talking about is because it also touches on heavy topics, but it's still, I think, it's very cute and wholesome and heartwarming, even though it's got that other stuff. Yeah. To a point where you almost feel like a bad person saying it's wholesome because of the other things that are like there also.
Yeah.
But they're
talking about them in like a lighter way, or like it's not like traumatizing on page stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of wholesome, have you guys seen We're Here?
No.
It's so good. It's on HBO Max. It's 3 drag queens. So Eureka O'Hara, Bob the drag queen, and Shangela. They go to these small little towns and they put on a drag show at the end of a week. And they basically have these different people in the community that they put into drag. And you get to hear all the like kind of sad, but also like they're dealing with their trauma of these like people from these small towns trying to live their queer lives and all that. But it's these people, these drag queens coming in to like help empower them and put on a show at the end of the week. It's very... It got me in my feels, got me a little teary-eyed a couple of times. It's really like...
What's it called?
We're Here.
We're Here.
That does sound cute.
All right, can I tell you another? Oh, now, Roger, you made me think of something heartwarming. And if you guys haven't watched the Great British Baking Show, you need to.
Oh my God, it's so good. We watch it all the time.
Love it.
It's so good.
It's so good. And it's like
they're like the nicest people ever.
I know.
Squidgy.
I swear that must be like a requirement when they're looking for people is like, do they seem just like the most wholesome? Would they live in a cottage with the fairies and the butterflies? Yes. Okay. They can be on the show. Cause like, they're just
pretty much. And they're so nice.
I've never seen that show.
Oh, please watch it.
It's on the Netflix.
Yeah, it's on Netflix, and
there's like 6 seasons of it.
Wholesome. You would love it. I think. Elle, you would be like, oh, they're so nice and cute.
If only, but
they
you don't
like
really
help each other. It's like a competition show, but they help. You know.
Sean,
they do.
Sean just walked in. It's true we don't watch a lot. He's sitting there. He's like, "What show? The Great British Bake Off? Is that what it's called?"
Yeah. Baking show in America. It's Bake Off in the UK.
Oh, okay. Sean said he's not interested.
I wasn't either.
Watch one episode.
I know. I wasn't either. I started watching it
like
during 2020 when I was like lockdown, and I'm like, my husband's like, "Why are you watching people bake?" And I'm like, "Cause it makes me feel good." And guess who watches it with me now? He does.
It seems like a nice show to have on while you're doing something else around the house. Like you don't feel like you actively pay attention.
Yeah.
But it makes you feel happy.
Yes, it really does.
It does.
We have one more question. And it says, fall returns every year. Name an old favorite that you'd like to return to soon.
What you got, Roger? Nothing?
Well, I have 2. So, I mean, I'm buddy reading The Fellowship of the Ring next month with a friend. And that's like an old favorite. I've been reading, I think the first time I read it was in 5th grade. And I've just been like obsessed. But like, I feel like it's hard to separate Lord of the Rings these days from the movies. Because I also used to go watch the movies with my horseback riding instructor. So we would go and like see the Lord of the Rings movies, and she was obsessed with Viggo Mortensen. I just remember her always constantly drooling over him. And then next year, I think in February, with he's been on World Hoppers before, Chris from A Fictional Escapist, we're doing a Dragonlance, the original trilogy read along, February, March, and April of next year.
Yay.
And so that's like very classic fantasy, very much like it's like older protagonists, so they kind of like went and did their own thing before the book starts, and the book starts and they're kind of all coming back after being doing this, I think for like 10 years or something. They're supposed to meet in this inn, like catch up with each other, and things go astray. This woman with this mysterious magical staff shows up and she's being tricked by these like half dragon evil creatures, and it kind of goes from there.
Nice.
That sounds fun. I've never read those, but I do want to at some point try them out.
I have one, and Joshana can probably guess what it is. And it's City of Girls. Because
Hey, guess what? That's mine too.
We were talking
I
about
haven't read it this year yet.
You're constantly in a state of rereading that, Joshana. That's cheating.
No, I have not reread it at all this year. The last time I read anything from it was when I was getting my tattoo. I was listening to the audio, but I only got in a couple hours, but I didn't finish it.
Yeah.
And you only read a little bit this year. Doesn't
just
count.
A tiny bit.
No, that was last year.
Oh, that was last year. My bad.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This year I've listened to none and read none.
Have you read that one more than any other book? Or you have some that you've read more?
I have some from my childhood that I've read more still, I think. Julie of the Wolves.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a throwback.
To be a wolf when I was a child. I read that one.
I can picture the cover with her.
Yeah.
Her face is really close up.
Yeah. And the face on the milk carton. I read that one all the time too. As a kid. I don't know why. Ingrid, we should buddy read it again together.
Let's do it.
That's also the first book you guys buddy read together, right?
I don't know if it was it the first.
No, I don't think it was. No, the first was Queen of Blood. The fantasy series.
Yeah, that's right.
The Queen of Renthia series is good.
Have you read the next one, the Blue Deepest Blue? Is that
no, I haven't yet.
Me neither.
I feel like a little bit of the third book was sort of setting up, like the spin-off thing.
Yeah.
So I do want to read that. I still don't love the end of that trilogy, but I still like the trilogy as a whole. The ending was kind of like, oh,
I don't remember the ending.
I remember I loved the world, like the trees and stuff. Like the world was awesome.
I want them to make a video game of that. And then
that would
have
be
the
cool.
characters navigate through the forest and stuff, the zip line system and stuff. Would be really cool.
I'll just nod. Yeah.
That sounds really cool.
I own the first book. I just haven't read it yet.
There's some surprisingly violent moments. The opening is pretty violent. And just random death scenes of characters where you're like, oh, okay. Like you'll be introduced to a person and then you watch them die.
Yeah.
There's one that's like I'm a little claustrophobic, so one of the ways that somebody
I remember that one.
I do think it's a book that sometimes people are like, it seems young adult, and I get why, because the writing is very accessible and the character starts out young, but there's then the really violent moments where I'm like, I mean, some of it, and then the second book, the main character is basically a mom.
Middle-aged
I think it's like marketed or shelved as adult. I remember I looked it up when we read it, and I think people associate like young character with YA, which is not necessarily true.
And it's the main character's a girl. It's written by a woman, and it's a shorter book, and it has a little bit of the magic school to some degree, and I think a lot of people associate that with younger audience as well. But it's an interesting series. It doesn't really fit perfectly, I think, in any one box. Anyway, are there any other favorites that you plan to return to soon?
No.
Well, I mean
I'm
the rest
always
of the Cosmere
rereading
stuff.
Yeah,
I'm excited to do some of that reread stuff next year.
I'm excited.
I reread The Hunger Games, the whole series, and I was crushed.
Yeah.
And
I reread that sort of recently, and it always holds up on reread.
It really does.
So good.
I haven't read it since junior high or high school.
I know, me too. I hadn't read I had never reread it, and I just reread it. It's so good.
Everyone says too that it holds up really well. I've never read it, so I feel like at some point I need to.
I just remember it making me viscerally it made me feel things when I read it back in like junior high school. It was like,
Yeah.
Dude, I cried. I was reading it at work and like on break or whatever, and I was sitting in the break room and I'm like listening to like the end of book 3, and my eyes just started getting all watery, and I like run away because people are gonna think I'm like crying at work, and it's because of a book.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really good.
Well, on that note,
On that note,
Such happy times.
yay for the finally fall book tag. I am
Woo.
very happy that it is officially fall and that it's not over 100 degrees every day.
Still over 90 though.
But
are
at
the
least,
misters still on?
at least when we take Luna Bear out for her WALKs, I don't want her to hear the word. It's actually decent outside,
Yeah.
where you're not sweating profusely. Like I don't
Immediately.
have to like put my sorry. I think this is a thing a lot of women can relate to, where you like kind of put your thumb under your bra so it doesn't get like that sweat.
Yeah. The
So I
line.
feel like that's a lot of walks or a lot of summer is just like holding that under your
Kind of
t-shirt.
breathe. Yeah.
I don't have to do that right now.
It's awesome. That's your like gauge for how hot it is. Do I have to hold my bra away from myself?
Yes. It's like how we look at does the groundhog see its shadow, is fall officially in Arizona.
I love it.
It's finally here.
Woo.
Luna would look super cute in Halloween costumes, just saying.
Luna is so cute. I sent Sean a picture right before we did this because I was nervous about that storm that came through, the dust storm. Luna's like on the couch looking out the window, and I was
Very
like, Luna, and she
concerned.
like looks back at me and looks terrified. It's really
Yeah,
cute.
she's like got her eyes a little big. Like, oh, yeah.
Have you ever put her in like a little outfit?
No, we'll give her sometimes bandanas, but we've never really given her an outfit before. She would not like it. She wouldn't. I don't feel like she would tolerate it. She'd find a way to chew it off. So, but I mean, maybe we'll get her a new bandana for Halloween, or
You get her like a little witchy one or a little pumpkin-y one. There has to be Halloween themed bandanas.
Redbubble started a pet line, so I'm sure I know for a fact they have some that are Halloween themed and stuff, and we have a plaid one that would probably work also. It just looks kind of fall themed. But anyway, that's that for the finally fall book tag. Thanks everybody for joining. Let us know your answers to these questions. And I mentioned Redbubble a second ago. Check out World Hoppers merch because it also goes to charity. But anyway, thanks everybody. Bye.
Just did like